afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bill Hawes, the humbug of Chapter 73 of the Eclampus Vitus, Assistive County Chapter. We're all here today to dedicate this monument and plaque to the last lynching in the state of California. I could stand here all day and recite all the facts leading up to this lynching of Clyde Johnson, but I feel that you should be hearing it from first-hand witnesses. First we have Mr. Alan J. McMurray, that wrote this book here, and he was very much involved. His whole family was very much involved in this. I could tell you a few things, but I'm sure these gentlemen can tell you a whale of a lot more. So, Mr. McMurray?
Closer to this. I was 13 years old. My father was a county court reporter, and of course the county court reporter is right in the middle of all these things. And I early on showed a kind of an interest in things, so my dad let me kind of follow him around, and the other people that he had to deal with, they didn't mind at all, and so I got in on a lot of this stuff, real exciting stuff to a kid like that. This case, I might say, started off with two fellows wearing stiff-brimmed straw hats. And the reason they were wearing stiff-brimmed straw hats was that somebody these fellows were, I guess we have to call them, well, I hate to start calling them bums, but anyway, they were ride the rails. That's what they did. The railroad rails. And they pulled into Dunsmuir, and there was a fellow that they got acquainted with down in the place where all the fellows sleep when they get off the train, when they're riding the rails. And they told him, he told this fellow to be a good place. He says, you don't want to get around a place like Dunsmuir where there's a lot of people live and all that, too many policemen and all that. He says, but there's this little place called Castella down the road about 10 miles. And he says a man could pull something off down there pretty easy. And he told him, he says, you ought to get some kind of hats that look unusual, because then you can wear them when you do the thing, and then later when the police are after you, they'll be looking for somebody wearing that kind of a hat. And you, of course, want to throw that away as soon as you pulled your deal off down at Castella. So they thought that was a tremendous idea. So they just got two stiff-brimmed, they each got stiff-brimmed straw hats, and they started walking to Castella from Dunsmuir. It's about 10 miles down there, if you've ever been the way, and there was a kind of a honky-tonk bar down there, and still standing. In fact, I stopped one day and went over there and located it, and it's just an empty building now, but it's still there. So they went in there at this bar, and there was, I don't know, 15 or more patrons in there, and so they just stuck up the whole place and got the grand sum of $35 out of this robbery. So then they went out in the parking lot and they stole one of the cars that belonged to one of the customers there, and they took off and they headed north on the highway toward Dunsmuir. And they got up there a little ways, turned off to the right, got off the highway, and there was another road that takes you into the center part of Dunsmuir. And they rolled in there to Dunsmuir, and of course the purpose of that was to get on a train, the next one that came through, and get out of there. The word had gone out about the robbery and so on, and so they were going to have a big, they were rounding up people, volunteers, to go out and hunt for these fellows. And nobody involved was experienced, of course, in running down criminals or anything like that. But there was two fellows that really had their wits about them, and so instead of them all rushing up over to across the river and going up there where they were reputed to have gone, these fellas said, they got to come back. Those guys are trying to get on the railroad. So one of them knew a place that you could see the railroad and the bridge all in one thing. And so they got in their car and they went down there, and he was overtaken by the head of the highway patrol in Dunsmuir, and riding with him was Jack Daw, the chief of police of Dunsmuir. And when they came across going up there, they saw this fellow walking along, and he certainly didn't look like the fellow they were looking for, but they decided, well, let's check him out. So they went right on by him, and they made a U-turn in the road, and they came back and stopped. Well, without standing here for an hour and a half telling you all the details, before that visit was over, this fellow had gotten the guns going, and he jumped on when the two officers tried to get away from there, he jumped on the back fender of the vehicle, took the pistol that he had and banged the rear window out and started firing into the car. And that's when Chief of Police Jack Daw lost his life. I'm told now, Ed, that you're supposed to take over at this point. And he is a participant in everything that happened from this point on, including almost wrecking his car getting back to Yreka in a hurry. Ed Matthews.
Thank you, AJ. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Well, this is a little bit, I've talked this thing over so many times, I've gotten so doggone old that I can't remember where I put my hat, and for that reason I brought my recordings that I took at the time I was working in the sheriff's office.
All held by police at the Sister County Sheriff's Office in jail. Deputy Martin Lang had locked everything solid and secure before retiring to the sleeping quarters at the sheriff's office. About 1 o'clock or a little later, there was a knock on the door. Martin looked out the window but couldn't see anyone. After the knock was repeated, he called down and asked what they wanted. A voice came back saying they had come in with a prisoner from Doris and wanted to lock him up. Martin told them to wait a minute till he got some clothes on, and he would be down to let them in. Martin slipped on his shirt and trousers and came down barefoot. The door to the office opened inward, and as soon as he unlocked the door and just opened it a tiny crack to peek out, a rush of manpower flung the door open and pinned Martin against the wall, and a rush of people stormed into the sheriff's office. Martin was pinned behind the door. He was not in sight to the mob. The mob lost their senses for a moment before they located Martin. When they did locate him, they tied his hands behind his back and ushered him into an automobile and drove off with him and took him south to Grenada and on about halfway toward Gazelle and turned him loose, barefoot with hands tied. In the meantime, someone produced the keys for the women's ward upstairs. The keys were mistaken for the cell block to the downstairs jail, and the mob rushed out of the office, pulling the office door closed. But locked. They soon discovered they did not have the keys to the main jail and mashed the office door in. They finally found the right keys and took Clyde Johnson, the prisoner who had killed Chief Daw, from his cell and went his hands. The rope was thrown over a limb in the tree, and Johnson was left hanging in the tree. Before leaving the jail with the prisoner, Henry Martin, who was a cook and baker in Yreka, came up the street by the jail, and he was detained while a prisoner had left, then turned loose to go on home. And we saw which way the lynch mob had gone, with the prisoner gone with the prisoner, and was able to tell the authorities who thought the mob had gone for Fort Jones. When I arrived at the jail at 4:20 that morning from Dunsmuir and met Martin Lang as he came out of the jail with his shoes on, but still untied, Henry Martin was just coming back to tell what he had observed and told us what had happened to him. He said he had gone out to where the lynching had taken place and saw a man hanging in a tree on the Fort Jones Road and would show us where he was, and that the man was already dead or appeared to be, as there was no movement you could see. I immediately called Dr. Newton, Sheriff Chandler, and Undertaker Frank Bill, and then Henry Martin Lang, and I drove out about 3 miles toward Fort Jones, where we found Clyde Johnson hanging in the tree. After Dr. Newton certified he was no longer alive, Martin Lang and I cut him down from a tree, and Undertaker Frank Rose brought the body to letter-taking parlors. The afternoon of the hanging, on August the 3rd, 1935, I obtained a search warrant from Justice of the Peace J.P. Bradley of Reed to search the Western Rooming House in Shastina. I had been advised that a person by the name of Robert Miller had been living there. I served the warrant on the proprietor, but Miller had moved, and before we got there, we later discovered he had gone to Grass Lake and worked on the highway for a couple of weeks. Then it was being reconstructed from the old Bear Mountain route through Bay. This was about the last contact on Robert Miller until he was arrested in Los Angeles September 2nd, 1936 by the Los Angeles Police Department by robbing a slot machine in Los Angeles. I interviewed Johnson at the Yreka County Jail on July 30th in the presence of Ed Matthews. This is a statement of C.L. Johnson. My name is C.L. Johnson. I am 24 years old, was born in Greensboro, Alabama, and have been in California 6 years. We met in Sacramento and registered at the Central Hotel on K Street, between 5th and 6th Streets. Miller did not register that day, but stayed with me. I registered under the name of Clifford Cowell. I don't know what name Miller registered under. We left Sacramento by freight on the 24th. Before leaving, we checked our baggage at the Greyhound Stage Company for Dunsmuir. I pawned my watch before leaving, a 15-year Walton wristwatch, for $5 at a pawn shop across the street from the Central Hotel. We arrived in Orville and then left the Kitty. From there to Klamath Falls, Oregon. Stopped there at the transit shelter one day and left by freight for Dunsmuir. Arrived at Dunsmuir about 11:30 a.m. Sunday, July 28th. We registered at the Hotel Reed and went to bed. The next afternoon, we started for Castella walking. Arrived about 5:30 p.m., sat by the highway until it got dark, and went downtown. About 10 p.m., we went into a beer joint and robbed it. We just went in and pulled the guns and told them to stick them up. There were about 6 in the place. I had a Luger and Miller had a .38 Police Party Colt revolver. I don't know how much money Miller got. He cleaned the cash register and took their pocketbooks. We put all the men in a back room and left in a car that was parked outside. Miller got in the car first and had the motor running when I got there. One man was in the car asleep and Miller got him in the door joint holding his gun on him. Came back to the car. I got in and we left for Dunsmuir on the highway. Before we got to Dunsmuir, we turned off the highway to our right and took a side road but kept going in the general direction of Dunsmuir. We left the car on a side road and started walking back toward Dunsmuir. As we were going down the highway, a car passed us and turned around, pulled in behind us with the lights on us, and stopped. Miller and I walked around to the driver's side of the car, and when I got right up to the side of the driver, there was two guns trained on us. One was a pistol the driver had, and the other a submachine gun. Someone said, "Take your hand off your belt." I ducked, and they started shooting. I raised my gun up over my head and started shooting in the car. I was only a few feet from the car and emptied my gun, a Luger. I ran around back of the car and changed clips. I knocked a hole in the rear glass with my gun so I could see. The car started slowly downhill. I jumped on the rear bumper and rode the car down the hill a short way and then jumped on. I did not fire a shot from the rear of the car. I had one fully loaded clip and another with 5 shells. The fully loaded clip was in the gun. When the shooting started, Miller was alongside of me. That was the last I saw of him. I don't know if Miller fired a shot or not. He only had one gun and some extra shells. I don't know how many. After I jumped off the car, I ran down through the woods and followed the highway a short ways, crossed over to the other side of the hill and down to the railroad yards. I started uptown when 2 officers stopped me and took me uptown. I had my Luger on me, but I gave up rather than kill anyone. I didn't know if I had killed anyone or not in the shooting spree. I did know the driver was hurt, but I did not know he was dead.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you very much. Very enlightening. Our historian, our chapter historian, would like to say just a couple words, I hope, and then we can go unveil the plaque.
Well, you know, this whole thing is not really a pretty story. It's about Jack Daw, his death, being killed by Clyde Johnson. It's about Clyde Johnson being taken out of the Siskiyou County Jail, being hung by the neck until dead. This whole thing is about death. And you'd think that with the end of Clyde Johnson, that would have been the end of the story. But it's not. Half a mile down the road here is where the pine tree stood. It's on the right-hand side, Highway 3, going toward Fort Jones. There's some markers on it if anybody would like to go see where the tree was. But about 6 months to a year after Clyde Johnson was hung from that pine tree, it, for some mysterious reason, died too. That is the end of the story.
Thank you, Mac. On behalf of Eclampus Vitus, I would like to thank Mr. Matthews and Mr. McMurray for their information, all the help they've given me on this. And also, I'd like to give a special thanks to Eric Giesler and his gracious wife, who allowed us to put the plaque here and who also put out some goodies here on the tables for us. So I will now unveil the plaque, and then we'll have a little get-together by the table and have a soft drink. Now, near this spot at 3 a.m., August 3rd, 1935, Clyde Johnson, native of Alabama, was lynched by a yet unknown group of masked men for the of Dunsmuir Chief of Police Frank R. Jack Daw, after robbing Padula's barn, Castella, Shasta County, of $35. This monument dedicated August 3rd, 1991 by Humbug Chapter number 73 of E. Clampus Vitus. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.